Okay, hello, we are live. So, hi, Steve. We have our regular event related to ADHD topic, and our great friend is here, Steve. So,
Hey, Andrew.
Steve, yeah, nice to be here with you.
Great to be here.
Maybe it's more convenient way for you to talk with Sergey because it's your best
Okay,
friend.
hello, we are live. So, hi, Steve.
Yeah.
Have our
Oh,
regular event related to ADHD topic and our great.
all right. Was cool. Was that coming from your window or
Yeah,
my window? Yeah.
yeah. I closed
Yeah,
my
we got the
window.
little delay.
Yeah, I try to recheck a little bit our
Mm,
live. So
yeah.
let's go. Maybe let's share maybe your updates. How was going your week? Maybe do you have any use from your maybe researches or maybe insights?
Yeah, no, things are great. Really excited to dig into this topic. Then going today, we're doing something a little different than we've done the last couple of times. We're going in a little bit deeper on one particular aspect of a technique that I found to be really helpful, and that's going to be our 2-hour workday. And I think it's one of the more powerful mindset shifts that I think has been really helpful for me, and hopefully it'll be helpful for other folks with ADHD. And so, if folks are out there, would love to hear where you're from. You got somebody from Washington. Hello, Pacific Northwest. I'm in Portland, Oregon. So yeah, would love to know where everybody is coming in from, and then we're gonna get going and dive in just a few minutes. How's your week been, Andrew?
Yes, thank you for the question. Everything as usual. We have so many different backlog of requests from our users, and we are trying to improve our application because we understood, by the way, maybe 1 month and a half that the main direction for us is ADHD audience because we have 52% of our users who are looking for solution for ADHD brains. And that's why we are prioritizing right now all of the features related to ADHD. And also, we try to be on the same page with new technologies and AI because, it's in a new direction. For example, yesterday we have so many updates from OpenAI, and we try to pay attention
Yeah,
on this direction as well. But I guess maybe in 1 week and a half we will have new good updates for ADHD
yeah,
audience. So let's stay in touch with our updates and with our releases.
yeah.
Uh,
Sounds great. So it looks like we got people from all over the world here. We got the UK, we've got India, we got hey Mike, great to see you. From Utah, Pittsburgh, Texas, India, Germany, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Jerusalem, uh, a couple of people from Denver, Chicago, Milan, Massachusetts. This is awesome. Great to have everybody here. So, what do you think? We jump in and just get into it.
yeah,
And
let's do it.
if you guys have questions, just throw them into the chat. Andrew will be keeping an eye on him. I'll try to keep an eye on him as I'm going through. But excited to take you through this technique today. So, all right, well let's get going.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me do my share. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk today about the 2-hour workday for ADHD brains. Is everybody seeing my screen? Everybody can see my slides and stuff.
I see your screen, so I guess all our viewers as well. So let's do it.
Okay. It's amazing ADHD brain. We have smart. The ADHD brains are really good at are the things that this help us get started. Right. So we get these bursts of insight and brilliance because all these things, and we're taking things in from the world, and we can put puzzle pieces together and create a lot of ideas and innovation and think out of the box. And we're really good at when we get super interested in something, we'll get into quick hit action. and we'll start making things happen, right? Because we find something we're interested in, we get passionate about it, we jump in and we make it happen. And kind of the wearing many hats, especially at the beginning of a business, is kind of fun because the learning and doing lots of different things is really good versus like being in one situation where you're doing the same thing over and over again. Is just seeing some things in the chat. Is the audio, is it recovering? It says better now. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a restream thing or what's going on. So hopefully internet gods will be kind to us today and keep the audio going. So ADHD has this way of really sparking people into business. And, also we get restless in kind of more narrow jobs or more super structured settings. So we like the freedom. But there is a flip side to this that I think a lot of people experience, and that is there's the struggles that come with that. And these are things that I hear directly from ADHD entrepreneurs. Things I hear. Every day seems like a battle, not to come up with ideas. We got plenty of ideas, but to sit down and actually initiate tasks. I have all the pieces. I have the track record, but I can't get going. I can't start. Instead of working steadily, I don't do anything, beat myself up about it, then work 12-hour days on the weekend to catch up. I've lived that one before. I get stuck in my head trying to figure out what's actually important. And by the time I decide, half the day is gone. I put a ton of effort to get for 60% done, and then it's not really critical. So it just kind of goes away unfinished. And then it always feels like I'm working on the wrong thing or I'm bouncing between too many things at once. Just curious for folks who are in the audience, does any of those things resonate with you? Have you guys felt this at any time as you've been navigating ADHD life and ADHD business life? And because this stuff I experience definitely. And how this shows up then is in the business is that we get really excited about a strategy, but struggle to follow through long enough to actually see the results. We'll say, okay, it's not working, and we'll jump to something else. We feel discouraged if we don't see immediate wins and shift to something new. And then we'll forget our past successes. Like no matter how much we've done, it's like they will fixate on what's not working. And then we'll say, okay, we really got to like settle down and we're going to like do a block of time. And then we clear out that uninterrupted block of time to focus on a big thing, but we end up frittering the time away somehow. And I've definitely experienced this over my life and a lot of folks I talk to. And so the thing that's really challenging about this is that there's a cost to this over time. Like, we talk about compounding, and Einstein famously said it was one of the most powerful forces in the universe was compound interest. But compounding works not just in our bank accounts, it works in life and our business. And so over time, when we make progress and then continue to make progress, the results compound and the progress compounds. And if we're constantly restarting or switching directions or whatever, then we don't get as far over time, and it really starts to show up over time. So there is a real cost to this in the near term and in the longer term. So, but it doesn't really have to be this way. And I wanted to share a few things for, some hopeful things for folks who have said, yeah, I've experienced this and this, I've encountered this. And so just some things that I'm hearing from folks who've been working with my systems and your weekly OS and this 2-hour workday that we're going to talk about. I was able to complete the work for 3 clients today. So happy I danced around my house an hour this morning. It just feels freer. It just feels amazing. I had a huge backlog of flagged emails, and I've cut that in half. Just feel more relaxed. Like I can do this. It's a good feeling. I get more done in 40 minutes than I've done in the last 2.5 months. I've been a bit of a productivity hack kind of geek for a long time. Nothing ever sticks. And this 2 hours a day was like absolutely mind blowing for me. So just to say there is a way, there is a path here. So I like to start by, sharing the challenges, but I also want to give the other side as well. And yeah, so the things that we're talking about, time blocking, it doesn't always work. And for ADHD brains, we're going to go into why that is in just some of the comments. So love the comments, guys. Keep them coming. And any questions, definitely throw them in. Okay. So what we have is we're going to talk about a 2-hour workday, and it's one technique that will help you get out of procrastination and ensures you make progress each day. And I think this is going to be really interesting for you guys, as we're going to really dive into, why this particularly works for ADHD brains. And so before we just get into that, for those of you who haven't been on a webinar with me, just give you a quick background. Why listen to me? Because I've been through this journey as an entrepreneur, and from the outside, I've been pretty successful. I took my first startup from idea to successful multi-million-dollar exit. That's me winning an angel competition all the way back in 2008. Hi, young Steve. And we was in Portland. We keep things weird. So we got it to an exit, worked for the company that acquired me. And then after that, started coaching other startup founders and created a multi-six-figure coaching practice. So on the outside, pretty successful. I did some stuff. But on the inside, it was a very different experience, right? I was diagnosed at age 54. So after all this stuff had happened, I got diagnosed because later in life, I started to really, really hit a wall. So I always felt overwhelmed during the whole journey. I was paying that ADHD tax where it takes us, as I like to joke, we always take the scenic route versus the straight line. So it takes us a lot longer and a lot more effort to focus and prioritize and do all those things. And you look around and you have all these amazing ideas and they're half executed, and just knowing that there's more there, and knew I was underperforming, and I could never really relax, enjoy downtime, and be present in my life. And it was just like I hit a wall at 54 and got that diagnosis, and suddenly everything started to make sense, all my behavioral patterns. So now my mission over the last few years is to take what I know about entrepreneurship and take what I learned about ADHD over the last few years and help other ADHD entrepreneurs succeed. So if you're interested in following me in other places, I have my program, ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator. I have the podcast, ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator. You can find it all on all the podcast platforms and YouTube, and a LinkedIn newsletter. The recording will be available on YouTube after the session. So you'll be able to go back and refer to this. So just as I've learned more about ADHD, I think the thing about it is that it is possibly one of the worst named disorders ever, or just brain types. And it's because it's not an attention deficit. It's not really a deficit of attention. I love what Trevor Noah said about this. He said they made it seem like you can't pay attention, when in fact it's more that you can't choose what to pay your attention to. And that's the thing, right? We pay attention to everything. That's what makes us kind of like brilliant at starting businesses and having all these ideas and having all this creativity. The struggle is, okay, how do we is not a deficit of attention. It's how do we focus that attention? And also, as a side note, hyperactivity may or may not be involved. I was never hyper as a kid or as an adult, so I never thought I could be ADHD. And so attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder just seems like that's not helpful. So, but let's talk about what it really is and what's in the way for us between the brilliance and the making good on the brilliance that we have in life and business. And that is really, it's all about executive function. So what is executive function? What are the things that it contains? Is like planning. It helps us plan and prioritize, right? How do we take a whole stack of stuff to do and actually figure out what's important and how to like put it into action, how to organize ourselves, how to actually start. Like task initiation is an executive function. That's why like procrastination is so challenging. Working memory, the short-term memory, out of sight, out of mind, is so real for ADHD brains, and that is really important. It's one of the things that once I understood, like I understood so many of the patterns in my life. Like I would go to conferences and meet people, and like the instant they told me their names, I would forget them, and they even have a name tag there, and I'd still somehow manage to forget their names. Impulse control, emotional control and regulation, flexible thinking versus very binary thinking, and the kind of joke of all this is self-monitoring or being aware that all this is going on. Okay, so it's really important. This really sets the foundation for why the 2-hour workday is going to work for ADHD brains. So what that means, ADHD brains, so we have that executive function. Executive function does all those things for us, and ADHD brains have a reduced level of that. So, and that produces these kind of things like time blindness. We have a very interesting relationship to time, right? We're not good with it. A minute can feel like 5 minutes. There's a joke that was going around that says, how do you know if your partner's ADHD? If you say we have to go in 5 minutes and they say, oh, great, I'll jump in the shower now. That's how you know if that they're working with time blindness. So time blindness, procrastination and distraction, challenge prioritizing and getting easily overloaded by options, because ADHD brains are really additive brains. We're always adding stuff in. It's really hard for ADHD brains to like subtract stuff and narrow stuff. Rejection sensitivity. I was not aware of this before I understood ADHD, that we have a higher sensitivity to rejection, and emotional dysregulation and decision fatigue and paralysis. All these things like come from a deficit of executive function. And that leads over time to a greater chance of ruminating over things, and anxiety and depression. And so once we start, being aware of this, then we can start working with it. Because really, ADHD brains really do have like really powerful strengths and some interesting challenges, right? So we're really super powered in learning, knowing, ideating, creating, out of the box thinking, all that stuff. That part of our brain is awesome and just killing it, right? On overdrive. But it's paired with a really underpowered doing part of our brain. The doing is part where the executive function, where we organize ourselves and sit down and actually get stuff done. Right. And this is what Dr. Hallowell in ADHD 2.0, his analogy was the Ferrari engine with the bicycle brakes. Right. So, and I love what Dr. Russell Barkley says about it. ADHD isn't an attention disorder. It's a performance disorder. ADHD brains know what to do. We have trouble doing what we know. Right. So this is all really important to know and keep in mind, as we're going to need to have that in mind for any kind of productivity system. So here's how I lay it out in terms of what are the barriers to making things happen for an ADHD brain. So we want to make something happen. We want to grow our business. We want to have more personal time, have more free time, whatever it is, right? There are 3 things that ADHD makes it a little bit challenging to do and make it happen, right? First, it's hard to prioritize and decide, right? Our brains it's, I like to say, cognitively expensive to prioritize and decide. It's hard to start and focus to finish, right? It's like sitting down and just starting. Sometimes it's just so hard. And then finally, it's hard to sustain over time, right? And so these are the things we need to do to make it happen. And I boil it down to, can you decide, can you do, and can you sustain? If you're able to do those things, you make progress in life. You take advantage of that compounding that I mentioned. If these start to break down, then we hit these challenges. So what we need to do is be able to use techniques that get the ADHD brain so that we can decide, do, and sustain. So we're gonna focus on doing today. So in previous presentations or previous webinars, we went all around, but we're gonna focus on doing, and we're gonna specifically talk about the 2-hour workday and why it's so powerful. Okay, and so we know with doing, the resistance is real, right? I love this to-do list. Mainly procrastinate. That's my to-do list, right? So, but there's so many reasons not to get started for an ADHD brain, right? We're adrift in the overflowing sea of ideas. Our brains are always adding stuff in, right? And so it's how we sit down, we think we're going to do one thing, and our brain's saying, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? It's like a 3 or 5-year-old kid just asking, what about this? What about this? In our brains constantly. So sometimes it's really hard, even though we have all the right intentions and ambitions. We sit down there and we can't get started because there's all these ideas that keep crowding us out. This perfectionism that comes with ADHD, the sense of like, if you get a little into it and you're like, oh, this is going to be a lot harder than I thought, and it's not going to look like I thought, or sound like I thought, or read like I thought, and it becomes this barrier, right? Planning loops, like planning as a form of procrastination, right? Is like we can get into a planning loop where we just keep planning and keep perfecting the plan. And it's like, but planning isn't doing. Deciding is a form of doing, but planning itself sometimes becomes a way of avoidance of doing. Research rabbit holes, of course. ADHD brains love novelty, right? The things that make ADHD brains go are intense interest and intense consequences. So research and learning stuff that's new is like, huge for ADHD brains. We're going to go down those rabbit holes, and that's going to be almost a happy place for us. And then overthinking, right? Somebody just mentioned this, like decision fatigue and overwhelm and overthinking. It's just, when your brain keeps adding stuff in, and all of this gets put into the mix of like, oh, well, what if it isn't as good as it is? What if I get rejected? What if people don't like it? What if I do succeed? What if it's wildly successful and now I have to do even more? There's just so many ways that we can get into resistance. And so we have to like figure out ways for our brain to get into motion, to get into action. And as we talked about, decision paralysis. So here's the, what I've observed to be the ADHD procrastination cycle. So we have here at the beginning, 3 stages. We have this plenty of time, just got to start stress. And it's just like, we got plenty of time. We'll get there. But we know in the back of our minds, we're probably still going to wait till the last minute. We have the deadline closer, but enough time need to get started. Stress. It's like, okay, things are coming closer, but the consequence isn't really there. And then we have the holy crap, I got to get it done. And it's 2-3 times more than what I thought. Right. And as I said, consequences and interest are what get ADHD brains going. And that's fine to a point. But the challenge is over time, it's really draining, right? To go up on these, to be having to perform at basically get the crisis moment or last minute moment. And that we need to, like, if we keep doing this over time, it just starts to get more and more draining, and we have to recover after that deadline and all that extra work. It takes us a few days to dig out of it. And so a lot of us think, okay, well, we've got, all these amazing productivity systems out there, right? Maybe they can help. And so I'm sure, you've tried a bunch of them. I've tried Trello. I've a former Notion user. I've tried Evernote. I've tried lots of different things, right? And there's a few reasons why they don't work, right? First, they're not built for our ADHD brains in mind. And partly it's because they're tools and not systems. So like something like Trello is a tool, but it's not really a system, right? Like getting things done is a system, but the tools can map to any system. But they pretend that if you just use the tool, then you'll have the system and then you'll be able to like get things done, but not for ADHD brains, right? And so the ones that do have systems in it, like a GTD or stuff, things like that, they're not real. They've got a real bias towards neurotypical brains. So there's an assumption that you can say, okay, take your whole list of things that you want to do and then prioritize them and then, make a to-do list. And it's just like, wait a minute, that prioritization step back up to that, because that's really hard, right? For an ADHD brain. That is something that requires a lot of cognitive effort. And by the time you do this, and this is why time boxing often doesn't work, is because we spend so much effort trying to time box and put things specifically where they're going to go in our calendar, that we don't have energy left to actually task initiate and actually do the thing, right? So not friendly to ADHD brains. And a lot of them are more geared on planning and not progress. Like, great, you have the plan, but it doesn't mean just because we have a plan as an ADHD brain, doesn't mean we're going to do it. And also willpower and discipline are no match for dopamine hunting brains, right? We have a limited pool of willpower and dopamine, or willpower and discipline, right? And we have to use that as effectively as we can, because as soon as it gets low, like dopamine hunting is going to take over, right? So we have to be really strategic and be really careful about it. So if we use too much of that discipline and willpower on like the planning part, we're going to have nothing left for the doing part of things. So I think it's really important that everything starts with really understanding how the ADHD brain is, tackles this stuff, or how it works. And I'm seeing some of the comments. Katrin says, perform best under pressure, but this feels so draining and unhealthy. Yes, over time, it really is. It really does become, because, and I can tell you as a 57-year-old, maybe earlier in my life, I could recover a lot faster, like just because we have more energy earlier in life than later in life. But as I got older, man, that recovery just gets harder and harder. And it's just, remember, our brains are additive. And so that's where the fatigue is and why we feel like our head's in hyperactivity. So really great comments here. Keep them coming. Keep questions coming. So cool. Okay, so let's talk about it. So let's think about this. If we've got a limited pool of executive function on a given day, right? And that can be variable from day to day, and we have important things that we want to do, then we want to be smart about when we put ourselves in position to do stuff, right? So the idea is, like, we have cycles during the day, and we want to match our best executive function windows to our highest impact tasks. Hope that makes sense. We want to use that time to where our exec function is at its peak to work on the most important things, right? So if we do that, we give ourselves the best chance of doing that. So here's where this mindset, this 2-hour workday mindset comes in. So we know we have a limited pool of executive function each day. And some days, what I like to use, and this is a concept I first learned from another ADHD coach named Aaron Croft, to give him some credit for this. I don't know if he came up with it originally or if it was something that's out there as well, but just using 2 hours a day of peak executive function. Like, some days I will have more where I'm driving, like yesterday I was killing it, and some days I will have less because I'll be tired. But if you say, okay, I've got 2 hours of peak executive function each day, it's a forcing function to say, okay, what is so important? What is the most important things? And then I want to put those things in those peak executive function. So if you think about, if you only have to think about 2 hours a day where you can where you have to focus, it takes pressure off. This is what I hear from people who really contemplate this and start putting in practice. It's like, okay, I don't have to grind for an 8-hour day, because your ADHD brain is probably not going to be able to do that unless it's in some sort of hyper focus. But I can do 2 hours a day. And especially if I split it up into 4 25-minute sprint with a couple of 5-minute breaks in between. So where you want to think about the 2-hour workday is like, what are the most important things you want to get done each day? And over the course of a week, okay, where's your best time? Where's your peak executive function? Where are your best 2 hours, right? Some people are morning people, and it'll be in the morning. Like, I'm a morning person. And some people are evening people, and some people are late night people. Late night gets a little problematic because you still have to get up in the morning at some point. Depends on your work cycle. But think about, when you're sitting here, think about, when is your brain the sharpest? When do you feel like you have 2 hours where you could actually sit yourself down and focus? And think about that right now. And then think about, okay, if you had to put 2 hours and block that out, what would you put in it? What would be the most important things? And then if you can just get some of the progress on the most important things, then everything else is gravy. Like, you've won the day already, right? And because the reality is, with life, with business, consistency tends to beat intensity. Consistency over time will beat intensity. And this is one of the big secrets to getting stuff done. And so, like Mark wrote, I can prioritize, but then I feel a strong emotional pushback from doing the number one thing, and we'll start doing the number two thing, or the quick, easy task, or even start at the bottom of my list. Exactly, right? There's a real resistance to jumping in. And we're going to talk about another way to help with that. And that's why, I structure my day around this 2-hour workday. It's really, if you say, okay, I've got this, I don't have the whole day anymore, then it's like 2 hours. If it can just start on the number one thing in that 2-hour window, that'll get you really far. And so the big game here is proactivity versus reactivity. The thing that moves us forward in life and business is being able to work as proactively as possible. Like, ADHD brains are naturally reactive because we're reacting to everything that's coming into us, and all the stuff that we're turning inside of us. So we're always naturally reactive. So when we understand, and we'll talk a little bit more about, okay, how do you understand what the right stuff is to be working on? Then be proactive when you're working on the things you intend to versus the things that are inbound. That is what will move you forward. That's the big impacts, the things we call rocks in my weekly OS system. And so when you think about narrowing it down to 2 hours, right, then you're able to essentially narrow the focus and say, okay, just for this 2 hours. And I see a couple comments on, hey, no matter what I'm doing, I feel like I should be doing something else. And I totally get that feeling too, because our brains are putting everything at equal urgency and equal importance. It's the wall of everything now, right? But sometimes just getting into actioning into motion. And so one little technique on that, Tim, is because you've decided to do that thing, it was the right thing to do, and go with that. So what I want to do is show you my dashboard, because I think this will help show you how I put it into practice, because I built my essentially weekly schedule around having a 2-hour window every day, and I host co-working sessions, and basically that's how I started my community, was essentially inviting other people to co-work with me during my 2-hour workday. And so I'm going to show you the X-Tiles dashboard template that I've created, and so that you can get a sense of how do you apply this in practice? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing that. And where is my X-Tiles? There we go. All right, so this is my X-Tiles weekly dashboard. And so I'll just do a quick walkthrough of it. So how we just give you some previews, how we decide what's important is, that's how I've created my dashboard. Is we have a magnetic north, which is our mission vision, and I have values in here too. And we need that, right? That's the source of all priority. Our mission is the impact we want to make on the world. Our vision is how we want our life to be. And when we have that, we have direction, and that is the heart of prioritization. Like what we want to make happen and how we want our life to be is like the two things that we need in order to prioritize any individual task. Okay, so on the way to that vision, we have, like, we're not there yet, so we have waypoints. So there are waypoints. So if I want to get to, say, 50K a month for this business, and my next waypoint might be 20K a month. And so there's usually something in my way, an obstacle. And so we figure out what's the next obstacle that's in the way of the waypoint. And then we figure out, okay, well, that's the thing I need to work on. And then we break that down into a project with lots of little steps. And that's where we start saying, okay, here are the different projects that we have. I've got to narrow that down because I've got my 2-hour workday. And so I'll have all the projects. I'll use the toggles and the tasks so that I can see both the big picture from the project and see the individual tasks. And I'll narrow it down by just dragging them across. And then I'll take the different tasks and I'll drag them into my week. And I use the 2-hour workday instead of time blocking each one of the things, rather than time blocking each one into very narrow things. I just have what's my 2-hour workday priority and what's everything else, right? Because the thing about dashboard that I like, that I think is really important, is calendars show us how we allocate our time, but they don't show priority, right? Exactly. Obstacle is the way. The calendars don't show priorities, and when priorities get out of our sight, they get out of our mind as an ADHD brain because of short-term working memory. So it's just what's the most important thing on any given day, and then everything else. So Melina, how you set it up so it works this way? Well, I have this as a template, and this is what I teach in my weekly OS course, and as well, I'll be talking more about that. But this is basically part of a system that integrates that 2-hour workday. And that's why the 2-hour workday is the heart of it, because I also know I can't go 8 hours a day. I can't have too much in there. So what's going to be important? And that helps me keep in proactivity. Cool. Yeah. And so I also have a place where I have my completed tasks, so I don't lose track of them, and I just check things off and then drag them to that at the end of the week. And then, of course, I have my self-care, sleep, meds, exercise, and nutrition. And that is, I know I want to track that because that is things that support my brain. Cool. All right, so let's get back into what I was talking about. Let's just take a look at some of the questions for a moment, and then we'll get back into this. Jenny, having a Post-it note about maybe there's no right decision, just the next decision. That's great, right? I love that. Like, because deciding is in motion, and acting on that decision. We don't know if it's the best decision or the right decision. We only know that it's a decision, and then we'll just make the outcome, and the outcome will be what it be. So deciding, going in with decisions, the mentality, because you decided it was the right decision, the thing you decided was right, is great. Let's see what else. I think there was one about expertise in entrepreneurship. But do you have advice for somebody in medical where everything is so fast paced and time demanding, and the consequences of having an off day are so high? Yeah, that's tricky because, because it is a very reactive environment. It is a very intense, high paced environment. And that is something where you have less control over your schedule than an entrepreneur. So it's about finding the places where you do have control over your schedule. And understanding that you're going to need to essentially adapt to your ADHD brain the best you can within the constraints of that situation, and knowing that the self-care is going to be really, really important. Okay, so just a review on the dashboard. The idea is with one glance, keeps priorities front and center, helps us not be surprised, adapts as needed, and isn't its own distraction. And, it can be print or digital. So going back to the 3 things: decide, do, and sustain how we want it to be. We want to be able to confidently prioritize and decide. We want to be able to consistently start, focus, and finish. And we want to be able to sustain over time. And so you guys were asking about how you do certain things. If we want to be able to prioritize confident, we're going to need to put these things. We want to, get out of the overwhelm, get into clarity, get into focus. Focus leads to action. Action leads to freedom. So we want that magnetic north that we talked about. That I showed you in the dashboard, that's really an anchor. We need rock-based prioritization. We be able to prioritize the right things and be paying attention to them. And something that I teach is like, we have to reality check, because we have our ability to estimate and our time blindness is really going to put us in position to overwhelm ourselves really, really quickly. So if we put these 3 things in place, we'll be able to decide. On the doing side, we want to have that 2-hour workday. We need to create focus shields for ourselves, and we have to have a no-fail starting. And so the thing, the real secret to starting is knowing what it is that you want to work on, having that focus, setting your environment so you're meeting yourself at your best possible executive function, and then doing it with other people. Like the no-fail starting, spoiler alert, is co-working and sometimes called body doubling. And that's what I host every day, with my programs, is that body doubling, because that's the thing that seems to be the magic bullet, the silver bullet that gets past the procrastinating and only have to doing it 2 hours a day really really makes a huge difference. And then sustaining over time, we want to be able to manage our dopamine so we don't get all those peaks and valleys. And we want to talk about rituals versus routine. Routines get boring and they fade. Rituals keep it interesting. And again, an ongoing supportive tribe, people that are ADHD like brained and get it. And so when we do that, we can realize our potential. And we can talk more about, I know there's some questions on X-Tiles and how to do it on the X-Tiles, that this template is available. So, but if we want to tie this all together, it comes down to mastering our weeks. It's all about building containers, right? We have the 2 hour inside of a day. We have a 2 hour work day kind of window that we want to use. Inside of a bigger timeline, it's the weeks that we want to use, because years and quarters are way too far out for ADHD brains whose reward mechanisms are only geared towards immediate interest and immediate consequence, and days are way too variable. So and months, if we string 4 weeks together, we get a good month. So this is what is all part of an operating system that gives progress. Cool. So I'll talk more about this. We want to reduce overwhelm and help prioritize, decide even when buried in options. We want to stop procrastination, overcome distraction, and provide a community of like-brained people. This is what a great weekly OS does. And we want to be able to adapt to your unique brain. So nail your week and everything follows. That's why it's a weekly dashboard. And that's what I help teach. So when you put this stuff in place, really good things happen. This person that's been putting their weekly OS in place, I just feel freer. I mean, it's just amazing. I had a huge backlog of flagged emails and I've cut that in half. I mean, it's just feel more relaxed, like I can do this. It's a good feeling. This person who was really struggling, my ADHD brain was telling me to give up. It's too hard. Having a place to show up daily, which both makes me accountable and supports me in unique ways, is quite frankly beyond my wildest dreams. You were encouraging me to get to know myself and meet myself exactly where my brain is functioning daily, instead of fighting it and beating myself up. Before your weekly OS, I was giving up before even working, and I nearly lost all self-confidence. I should even be working in my field. Since starting, I've achieved many small wins, which enabled me to get on track with a big project. I was able to communicate with my clients promptly rather than being frozen with anxiety and fear. And I got the real work done. The fact that I got it all, like all 5 email sequences and social media done yesterday, means that I was able to give all that to my VAs, and my whole team is working on it now, and it's off my plate. That's almost miraculous. Cool. So if this is interesting to you, if you're feeling like this stuff resonated for you, we have a really good deal, a really interesting program. And it's a 3-week program that a lot of folks who are on X-Tiles have gone through. It's called Your Weekly OS. If you want the support to make this work for you, this is a really amazing program. It consists of an interactive gamified course. It's really fun. There's lots of dopamine hits. It's interactive in that you'll be as you go through it, I'll be coaching you along with it through the comments, and also 3 weeks of co-working sessions. So you get to experience the co-working itself, which is really awesome. This is a great group of people that helps actually be able to start. And we have 3 live learning sessions, or each week. We have a weekly live learning session over the course of the 3 weeks. So you get in-person, or not in person, but Zoom support for any questions that you have. And then the cool thing is we're working with Xtiles. We have a 1-year Xtiles Plus access subscription worth $99 on its own. And if you already have a subscription, they'll extend you for a year. And normally this is $499, but we're running this a great deal. You can save $300 on this for the next 3 days, just $199. And there's the link is right there in the GoSteveAugustCoaching.com weekly OS, and the coupon you use is weekOS 10.6, and that'll help. This has just created so much progress, and the progress is really not just the getting work done, but also just the sense of peace and relief. Like this person who was in recently said, I'm taking away a sense of peace and relief with the brain first approach. I've been getting more done within the 2 hours and enjoying what I get done outside of it with a greater sense of ease and freedom. This is really big. So that's the pitch. I highly invite you to do it. It's an amazing group of people that come through it, and people just see immense progress. So I'm going to leave this up there, and we're going to just leave it open for questions, and we can answer between Andrew and myself. We can answer any Xtiles or ADHD question that you've got. So let's take some questions.
Yes, thank you, first of all, Steve, for this amazing story. It's my first time, and I'm so excited to see this information. And I'm not sure that I have ADHD, but I'm so impressed based on your information. And I promise you, I will play around with this system, and I try to implement everything in my life, because it sounds so magnificent, let's say, because you have 2 hours per day and you can achieve everything during your day. By the way, let's step back maybe a little bit, because we have questions, and let me highlight it to discuss it with you.
Yeah. And Andrew, it looks like the link you posted has got the
Let me wait a second.
Cool. How are you distinguishing between goals and rocks? Okay, so the goal is where you want to go, right? Your vision, based on your mission and vision. So that's where you want to go, right? So in between that, where you are right now in time, and that goal is a waypoint. Somewhere in between. It might be halfway there. It might be a quarter of the way there. It might be 3/4. Wherever it is, there's something likely preventing you from getting there. There's an obstacle in your way, right? And so what we do is we take that obstacle and we turn it into a rock. So the idea of a rock it comes from, I think it's either Stephen Covey or Eisenhower or one of these folks, who basically, if you think of what you do and your capacity to do stuff, your time and everything and your effort, and you think of that as a jar, there are things you can put in the jar. The rocks are the things you put in the jar that are going to move you forward the most, right? The pebbles are things that are important, but if you do them, you're not going to make as much progress. And the sand is kind of like the making your bed and washing your dishes. Like, you can work on them really hard, but you're not going to go forward really, right? And so the thing is we want to put the rocks in first. So why we use the idea of the rock is because we want to have something that is, as the person quoted, the obstacle is the way, as the Stoics used to say. We need to take that obstacle out of the way and put it into break it down into tasks, and I call it thin slicing. We want to thin slice that rock and turn it into tasks, and we want to just get that rock. Working on the rock is getting the obstacle out of the way, so we get to the next step in our goal. So hopefully that made sense.
I hope so. So next question from the previous messages.
I'm a school administrator in a virtual setting, and there is an unspoken expectation to always be on and available, meetings, emails, chats throughout the day. Any tips? Yeah. So one of the things is to let people like to figure out a time, and you may be able to take an hour, you may be able to take 2 hours, you may be able to take 10 minutes, depending on what is, what the environment is. But being really clear with like identifying one part of your day where you can grab it for focus, even if it's like 30 minutes, and then let people know that you're going to be focused, and the level of that you're going to have your do not disturb on, and the level of urgency has to be like the school's on fire, like in order to get to you. But you have to protect that time somehow. And so a lot of that expectation, you know, is sort of like starting to train your own muscles and the people around you in terms of like, okay, this 30-minute period, I'm not going to respond. And like one of the strategies we teach, and this is about like being real strategic with executive function, is that it's going to be a lot easier to set your do not disturb and use your discipline and willpower on that versus like not setting do not disturb and getting 30 messages and having to like individually resist the notification on each one. So it's like start small with a little bit of time and carve it out and sort of train yourself and train others. And there's rarely things that can't wait 30 minutes. Even in that setting, I mean, I would say the medical person in medical school, there's life or death situations, obviously, but in mostly day-to-day and work life, there's very rarely things that can't wait 15, 30 minutes. Right. So I would just start with a little bit of start small and expand.
Amazing. We have around 3 questions about how to integrate this template with our planner. Let's maybe uncover this point a little bit because it's a tricky question. Let me add maybe more input because you invented this template before that we invented my plan. So it's a true story behind the scenes. So finally, I'm sure that if somebody wants to integrate this weekly template inside the planner, it's possible. But originally, you can use it like outside of the planner. So this is my current answer. But the idea of this template is like weekly planning. So inside the planner, you can plan day, week, months. But to follow this methodology, you have to copy this template inside the weekly period. So something like that.
Yeah.
So this is my answer.
Yeah, and it's something that I think we should talk about. Surrey and Andrew and I should talk about and see if we can, create a little bit more integration with it. Because there are reasons I keep it very simple, in that it's not necessarily integrated, because I don't want it necessarily like to become its own distraction. So I keep it really simple and a little manual. But other folks have integrated or want to work it a little differently. And my philosophy is, the tools that work are the tools that work for you. So it's always that balance between like going down the rabbit hole of like, how much do you need to tweak it and tune it, and how much can you just get in and using it. So we continue to, continue to figure out the best ways to integrate those two. Yeah. Mike's been a member of my co-working group in my ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator program for the last 3 or 4 months, and it's just been amazing watching his progress. So, Mike, thanks for posting that. Just amazing having you in the group.
We have one more tricky question. It's maybe a little bit related to the first step inside the X-Styles, or I guess if we can talk about these first steps inside the X-Styles, you can follow this weekly OS system because it's simple and efficient way how you can get started and organize your life. So I guess it could be the best solution for you.
Yeah, and for my own, because I was on Notion for a lot of years too. I haven't migrated everything over. I just sort of start fresh with X-Tiles. and then gradually like sort of parallel it a little bit. It sometimes feels a little messy, but I'm also a pack rat, so it's like there's things that it's just taking things over time and being kind of intentional about how you want to set it up, and then bringing things over time, and know that it might not be an instant transition, but you do it over time, and you get to as you get more familiar with Xtiles and learn how the ways it thinks and how it can help you organize things, then you are able to like bring things over even more effectively.
Okay, we don't have new updates in chat. Maybe we need to ask our audience to ask more questions, because we are open for the next 5-6 minutes to answer on all questions. So maybe do you have any questions, Steve, for us as inventors of Xtiles? Maybe, or are you waiting for something? maybe you have some requests for us, maybe when we will have some new updates or widgets, because you are so humble and you didn't ask us anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's as I continue to work with it, I think there are just certain things that there isn't really anything at the moment that's like top. I have used the AI in interesting ways and this is part of what I teach in the course too, is give people some prompts for the Xtiles AI to be able to essentially break down projects. Because one thing ADHD brains are really bad at is estimating time and estimating how long anything will take. Like I'll say, I'm going to redo my website this afternoon. It's like, no, you're not going to redo a whole website in the afternoon. And the using the AI inside of Xtiles, like I used to use the goblin.tools magic to-do list, which does a really good job of it. But then I had to manually copy and paste about the task over, and it felt very clunky. But with the AI inside Xtiles, I can have it create the tasks and then organize it a lot faster. So I'm still playing with that, but yeah, I think that was a really good ad.
Thank you for this feedback. By the way, I found interesting question, and I had before this session the same question. Maybe you can expand for us more information.
Yeah, cool. Let's see, is the course you offer just for entrepreneurs? It's focused on entrepreneurs, but I've had people who are not entrepreneurs take it and have really good success with it. People in business, and also people who are retired, who like retirement is really cool for them, but it was like the ultimate of being unstructured. And this really helped them start to move forward and do things in life. So I think everybody who has taken it has really come out of it and just had a really profound change. So I invite you to take it, even if even if you're employed or retired, you can benefit for sure.
One more thing dedicated to your course.
Best technique is co-working. To start a difficult task in the 2 hours is co-working. And that's why I include co-working with everything I do. Every program I have includes the co-working.
Okay, so ordinary question about the recording. For sure, recording will be available on YouTube and LinkedIn and other channels when we are broadcasting and multicasting our webinar. Okay, one more tricky question.
Oh yeah. So what do you have to say about using multiple tools? I have 2 for helping clients with systems, as that is what I do. That's a good job. I find myself using too many, and that is an issue. Miro, ClickUp, Xtiles. So what I try to do is give myself certain windows in the year where I get to try new tools, because there's always a new tool that comes out, right? And there's always something that especially in this age of AI software development, where people are developing things very quickly, but switching costs add up after a while, and there is no perfect tool. I love Xtiles. as much as the next person. It's definitely my favorite tool right now, but everybody knows there's always going to be something where you're going to have work around it a little bit, because that's just the nature of software. Having been a software, my startup was in software, so I know this from the inside and from the outside. So in terms of, if you're finding yourself using too many tools, there's two ways to look at this. Some of it's mindset for you, Stacy, is because part of what you're doing is helping people with systems. So part of your job is to know what the systems are that are out there. So you can look at it as that. But I think there is something to be said to, like, okay, so what's the system that you're going to anchor your business and your progress into, right? And then which ones make the most sense? Because I've tried Miro, I've tried ClickUp, and they just didn't really, like, the thing that I liked about Xtiles was that I could put things exactly where I wanted them. And I never, like, I could do that with Miro, but it didn't feel like it hooked up to anything. It didn't, like, it was just more of the visual and it wasn't the stuff behind it. And then ClickUp just felt like I wasn't happy in ClickUp. So some of it is like finding the right tool for you and your vibe and that you're happy to go into. And then over time trying to narrow when it makes sense, and then giving yourself those windows to your permission to not add something in. And just because sometimes what happens is we get to a point with a tool and we're like, oh man, and now it's a little too hard to like figure this out. And then we go to another tool, but there was probably a potential way to do it. Anyway, so that's my ramble on that. I hope that's helpful.
Sounds so clear and fair enough, Steve. Thank you for this feedback. Okay, did you recall something about this widget? Because
Yes.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me see if I can find it. But yeah, so one of the people who just went through my weekly OS class did this really cool thing. Her name's Elizabeth Landry, and she was awesome. Let's see, do I still have it in here? Yeah, here it is. So I didn't know this. She was a more expert user than me, but you can ask. So what she did, her process was she wanted to create this dopamine reward spinner that she could say anytime she finished something, she could give herself a reward. And she created these categories, and she's not a programmer. She just asked ChatGPT to do this, to create the code and then put it into CodePen. And then Xtiles can let you run stuff inside in CodePen, CodePen stuff. So she says, okay, I want a tree style reward. There'll be, I'll make this a little bigger. And you can spin the wheel, and just a fun thing. And you get, okay, your reward is a bite-sized candy from a hidden stash, right? And this is one of the things we talked about in your weekly OS, is about having rituals to keep things interesting, because we need the dopamine, especially over time, to sustain. So this was just a really fun thing that she did. And I give her all the credit for it, but so I have it in there anytime I use it.
Yeah, looks really funny.
Yeah, it's cool. It's fun. So, and she had other ones that, different apps or different things, but that's part of what makes Xtile so interesting too, is being able to do this kind of
thing. Yeah, it's really popular stuff for our users to use different widgets, especially for ADHD brains, because it's like quick dopamine. You're right. Okay, one more question, maybe dedicated to our team, about more templates. Yes, we tend to do this because we know that our audience prefer templates. And if you want to be a part of this community, feel free to join to our champions on our website. So I will share a link a little bit later, and you can join to our community of creators. So let me add your input. Yeah. So let me look for another questions.
Do you have any tips? Yeah. Recovering well after a 2-hour work session. Yeah. So recovery is a really important thing, because brains need rest, and it depends on, what works for you. But I find if I get up and walk around and go outside, that is one thing, especially if the weather's nice, which it is today in Portland, Oregon. But whatever the ritual is, sometimes it's just, I'm going to go make myself a new cup of tea, or I'm just going to, sit and just think for a little bit. What I would say I would avoid is getting on TikTok or social media, because that scrolling and that dopamine hunting is not rest. It's basically spinning your brain, and actually, you'll end up more tired. It'll give it a spike, and then it'll tire out even more. So just giving your brain a little less input is what you need, and then get back to it.
Yeah, the next question.
If I go ahead and upgrade my current template with the new integrations over the next year, will those who purchased it today have access to future versions? Yes. That's an easy one. Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So we don't have any updates. Maybe one more thing. Yeah. You can find recording of this webinar on Xtiles YouTube channel, on Xtiles LinkedIn, and please share your sources, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can find this information on Steve pages also.
Yeah. And I know this will be on YouTube as a recording under Xtiles. I think I'm streaming it to my channel too, so it'll probably end up under my channel on YouTube, which is ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator. So that's so you'll be able to go and watch this at your leisure. So, and the coupon's good for 3 days. I think this Thursday at 11:59 p.m. is when this coupon will expire. So the templates are in the course, and the support for the template is there as well.
Yeah. Okay, so we don't have any questions and updates. So yeah, please pay attention to the link on Steve's course and special promo code to the discount. So maybe that's it. It's a good time. It's a good information, Steve, as usual.
Yeah.
So we have these meetings and webinars every 2 weeks. So I hope we will create something new with new updates and new information in the 2 weeks. So it will be really a new portion of updates, something like that. Steve, maybe do you have anything else on your mind for our audience?
No, it's great. It was great being with everybody today. Thanks for hanging with us, and love the questions, and hope to see you in your weekly OS. So somebody's saying that the coupon doesn't work.
Let me share once more. Maybe you can share via your chat.
Yeah, I'll just confirm on my CRM, but I saw at least one person check out. Let's see here. Yeah, it should be this. Yeah, 2 people have already redeemed it today, so I know it does work. So I'll just put it back in the chat again. I'll put it in the private chat so that Andrew can put it in the.
Yes, I have already sent it to our public chat. Yeah, dedicated this coupon. Yeah, please try again. It should work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, what else? One more question. Maybe do you have any thoughts?
I've been working. Is there any special pricing if a whole team signed up for the course or for Xtiles?
And by the way, while we are waiting for the answer, please share your
Yeah.
input.
Yeah. So the $99 program is actually my ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator membership. So that is an ongoing membership program, and that's where a lot of people go after your weekly OS. And so what that is taking the momentum you build on the weekly OS, staying with the co-working, and then we have specific courses and shops to and monthly kind of coaching to move you forward in your business. And it has a very light version of your weekly OS without the without all the live stuff, and it doesn't have the X-Tiles membership as well. So the weekly OS is where you get the real support in terms of this part of the journey, where you get 3 live week sessions with me. You get the X-Tiles, the gamified course, which in that course, I do a lot of coaching asynchronously through the comments and through the messaging.
Okay, we have okay.
Cool.
So we have this update.
All right.
Okay.
Awesome.
So yeah, so stay tuned. So if somebody will have new questions or something else, please reach out us on email or dedicated to Steve LinkedIn page or in our intercom system live chat inside the X-Tiles. So we are happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you for your new insights. So I hope we will see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah. See you then, everybody.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Bye.